Well, big bad Boston couldn't get it done again. Denver closes the door in the fourth quarter, leads throughout almost the entirety of what many said would be a finals preview. What does it say about the matchup? What does it say about the Nuggets? And, oh yeah, Peyton Watson's a bad dude. Plus, AG. Man, AG. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Being an everydayer, checking us out Monday through Friday here on the show. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate those 5-star reviews. Good time to get those in. Or if you're checking us out on YouTube at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets. We appreciate you guys being with us. Got folks like Tony K hanging out, Daniel West hanging out, Tomy's here, Blair Einfeld's here. Lots of folks hanging out with us in the chat segment here on a Friday with Matt Moore and Swipa for this show, which will go over the Denver Nuggets win over the Boston Celtics to sweep the season series versus the Celtics, one of only two teams, along with the Pacers, to get 2 wins versus the Celtics this season. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. As I said, my name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Swipa. You can catch him out on his YouTube channel at SwipaCam and on Twitter. I will still call it Twitter. I will not call it X. And Swipa, I will still call the Denver Nuggets the defending champions and the team with the most championship equity, as in Denver, they go 2-0 versus the Boston Celtics. Great game, great atmosphere. The arena was hype. 30 to 40% Celtics fans, I would say. That was my estimate, was like somewhere between 30 and 40. Definitely not above 40%, but definitely not below 35% is probably what I would say. Loud crowd, but Denver got the win. Michael Malone tells them take the L on the way out. Give me a couple of takeaways from the game. We can kind of go back and forth here on things that we saw in this game, things that we saw that were relevant. What do you think was the thing that what did you take away with most from this game?
Yeah, I think it's just the level of physicality. One of the first thing that jumps out. I think the Nuggets have somehow over the last several years moved into this position where they're the most physical team in the NBA. And I think versus the team that is immensely talented, Boston, but prior to that Cleveland game was a top 2 defense in the NBA. They're the number 1 offense in the NBA, with one of the only teams to be able to boast that in the last 20 years of the league. So they've been performing really well. They're used to beating people down. And yet the Nuggets, man, with minimal threes made, shooting 19% from 3 doesn't matter. They're able to dominate inside the paint. They dominated in transition yesterday. And I think that the Nuggets, their physicality, their connectiveness, they just have a level of belief about them that no matter what, and they get in any situation, even if it gets close, which it did at the end. You know, Jamal Murray had a couple turnovers there at the end of the game, a couple bad shots. It doesn't matter. I think the Nuggets are just able to put their foot on the gas. And they're just really tested. And I talked about this yesterday, Matt. This started 2017-18 when they lost to the Timberwolves and they missed a chance to go to the playoffs. They're just gritty. They already know how to fail. They're not afraid to fail. And because they're not afraid to fail, they do whatever it takes to win. And because they just know what it takes, they know what they need to do in every moment. And I think the way they respond to adversity, even if Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. don't have the best numbers, they're still contributing to winning. And it matters. And I think Jamal Murray's improvement as a passer playmaker have really shown really bright as of late. Had 8 assists, had 5 turnovers yesterday. Again, you know, a little bit of a up and down game, but that stint he had in the second quarter, Matt, where it was just him with the bench unit. He had 3 straight buckets versus the Boston Celtics in the post on Derek White, on Jaylen Brown, on Xavier Tillman. And then in the fourth quarter, that little shot he had, dribble hedgy tween, float over the middle, the little push shot floater he had. Just the shot making for the Nuggets was incredible. And they didn't even, again, make a lot of 3-pointers. I think they made 5 yesterday or 4. So a lot of this is, if the Nuggets have just shown, we are very comfortable winning ugly. And I talked about this too, but they fight in a phone booth. Like, they want you to try to play pretty with them. And as soon as it gets tight and it gets tough, we're going to put you in a phone booth and we're going to wrap it up. And that's exactly what they did yesterday. They made Boston conform to their style of play. They said, you can try to hit these 3-pointers if you want, but you're going to have to get into a dogfight with us down the stretch. And even though Boston, very resilient team, very talented team, they responded really well. And they got back into the game. They got down 2. Jason Tatum had a wide open 3. But Jokic, man, they put him on the corner, and he gets to finish over KP. He goes onto the nail. He gets a little spin over his shoulder, throws it to Aaron Gordon twice in the fourth quarter, and it was kind of over from that point. And I just think the ability that the Nuggets have to play whatever play style the moment calls for, and they believe they get you down into a situation where they can hunt you down or hold on to a lead, Matt. They're just a special team, and I think Malone deserves a lot of credit. Zeke Naji is playing really well lately, had some good minutes yesterday, had a great finish, great acrobatic finish where he showed his athleticism. Then obviously, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, all the bench was in the positive yesterday, which if you're playing versus the Nuggets, that's often not a good sign.
We're very big on I've tried to talk a lot about during the stretch to enjoy these moments. Like Adam's very big on that, about getting the joy and the enjoyment from sports. And so like one of the things that I do think that I want to kind of stress today is like, if you're a Nuggets fan, take this moment and appreciate the squad that you have, and particularly appreciate Aaron Gordon. Like take a second and just be like, it is really awesome to have this combination of talent. Look, I don't blame Jamal for any relative struggles that he had in that game. He was great in that second quarter. Derek White and Drew Holiday are the best defensive backcourt in the league by far. Like both of those guys are absolute raptors. Like they absolutely not in the Toronto sense. They are just absolute birds of prey, and they swoop on you and they take advantage, and they are so tough and they're so physical and they're into you constantly and they wear you down. And honestly, like I thought Jamal played within himself, and that's really important. He had one weird shot, I thought, down the stretch. Late in that game, I asked Malone to kind of walk me through. I was like, look, I get it's a simple sequence when Jokic is posting and AG's in the dunker. I was like, but what is it at that combination that kind of makes it so tough to stop? And, Malone did walk me through it, where he's like, well, they were doing a lot of switching. So sometimes we were able to get a small on him. And if not, he's still able to go through KP. And it's really crazy because you look at the clincher. The putback dunk was obviously ridiculous. And like, that's just like Aaron being Aaron and having unique hops. And Malone said he roams the skies. But like the lob to close it, much like versus the Lakers. What's funny is if you go back and you watch it, the minute that Jokic spins, so he gets it KP and he goes right and he spins left. The second that he spins left as Drew Holiday is approaching, if you watch Jason Tatum on that sequence, you will see the same body language that you saw from LeBron James, which is that the pass isn't in the air, and both those guys are like, we just lost. Like, because they know. And it's so tough because Malone, talked about, he's like, well, we spaced the floor with 2 guys at the corners. So if you crash down, he's got wide open kickouts to quality shooters. I am of the opinion that we're probably going to see that in the playoffs. That's probably going to be the adjustment, is like, look, we will take our chances with at least a 3-point attempt, which has a 37 to 41% chance of going in, versus this lob, which has a 100% chance of going in. Like Jokic said it yesterday, where he's like, if we don't convert that, it's because I missed the pass. That's the only way that we miss that, because I know Aaron's going to catch it if it's within his range, and Aaron's going to dunk it. And that combination is so uniquely special. AG really bucked up defensively after what I thought was a pretty rough first quarter. I thought that KCP was fantastic and really wearing him down. Like Tatum had a bad game, but the guys did a lot to really disrupt him and make him uncomfortable. And like I wrote about this on Action Network, and I really do believe it. Denver is comfortable winning however they need to. We're not hitting threes tonight. No problem. We're going to grit this out. We're going to get inside buckets. We're going to get to the free throw line, which they never do. And we're going to get stops. And Boston's not. When Boston doesn't make threes, they don't know what to do, and they keep going back to it. And there are teams that know how to find ways to win, and there's teams that are just constantly trying to be like, well, if we just do it a little bit better. That's not how this works. This is the highest level of basketball, and you have got to be able to find a way to victory. And they weren't able to, and the Nuggets were. And that's the difference between a champion and a team that's still trying to find its way there. Up next, we'll talk about Peyton Watson, Swipa's guy. We'll talk more about some of the adjustments that the Nuggets made. We'll talk more about this matchup and what it means going into the finals. If they were to meet, we'll talk about that on the other side on Locked On Nuggets. Our partners, eBay Motors, have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks of the week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. Let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. About Kelly Olynyk. He's set for an extended set as the Raptors starting center with Jakob Poeltl out, plus Scotty Barnes is out, and we know how good he can be. It's a great pick. He's obviously going to get a lot of minutes with both Poeltl and now Scotty Barnes out. Like, Olynyk's going to rack up assists because he's going to have to be the primary playmaker in a lot of these sets alongside Emmanuel quickly. They'll probably develop some chemistry there. Also with DHO stuff, Kelly's one of the best, so they should be able to get some production there as well. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows the championship team's about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Matt Moore alongside Swipa. Make sure to check out Swipa's YouTube channel as well for reactions to all things Nuggets. Swipa, we got to talk about your guy. We got to talk about your guy because Blackburn asked me before the game, in between his spouts of hating AG, he asked me, who on the Nuggets bench do you trust the most? And I said Justin Holiday because I'm me and that's who I am. And this game this one changed my opinion. Now, look, this isn't the playoffs. No regular season game is the playoffs. It's entirely different. Peyton's has not played meaningful minutes in a playoff series. Has not happened. But the way that he has expanded his game, where there are so many ways for him to impact it, where he's coming off of curls and hitting mid-range jumpers. He's sliding through the lane after Jason Tatum makes a gamble on a steal for a massive dunk. I know he can do the defensive stuff. I know he can make those crazy blocks where he almost decapitated Nikola. I know he can make those plays. I know lots of guys that can make those plays, but you got to be a more complete player than that to play in the playoffs, and he's showing that. Passing, scoring, the three-point shot is going to be a huge leverage point for him. But I think that we've seen enough for me to feel okay, yeah, I trust Peyton Watson in the playoff series, which is remarkable for a 21-year-old in his second year.
Yeah, he has become a sneaky, really good mid-range shooter since December 1st. And I very much trust him with that shot. And again, some of these are movement mid-range shots and turnarounds. And he really just kind of has that Kobe dead leg in the air to him when he does shoot him. So he's kind of reminiscent of a young Kobe. I think he just offers so much. And then defensively yesterday, whether it's Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, he just shows so much length and versatility. And that transition play he had where he saved Jokic, because Jokic threw a bad ball across the court, and Peyton Watson grabs it, spins, able to somehow get around the defender, and then finishes with an insane dunk. And what I love is watching the timeline explode on Peyton Watson, where you have, I think when Anthony Irwin said that, he's going to extend the Denver Nuggets window. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And I just obviously laughed at that. Irwin's a great content creator. And I think Peyton, man, he's so confident. And he wants to do it the right way, Matt. I think that's the thing that separates him from a lot of young players. He doesn't want to do it in a way that just lifts up his own game. He's trying to buy into an idea. He really respects Joker. He respects Jamal. I think he respects Malone. And I think he really is trying to identify with, there's a system here. There's a way that I can flourish. And sometimes he'll test his game and get out of it a little bit. But he's trying to hit open three-pointers. He's trying to hit open mid-range shots. He's trying to make a connected play. Okay, try to throw it to KCP. If KCP gets covered, okay, I'm going to step back into a mid-range shot myself. And then defensively, Malone told him, play with energy, and you try to make plays defensively, and that's what he did. He's flying around all over the place, and he bothered Jason Tatum yesterday, and one of the reasons why he wasn't able to have a good, efficient night. And I think going into a playoffs, the fact that the Nuggets can have I don't know where you rank him as a defender on the Denver Nuggets, but say KGP and AG are better. The fact that you can get a comparable defensive wing coming off the bench for this team, I think is incredible. And I think his fit with Jokic has been really well, that worked really well this year. And again, if he's hitting his spot up 3-pointers as a 36% clip, 37% clip, now that makes that Jamal Murray, Justin Holiday lineup even better with Zeke Naji and Christian Brown as well. So really just shout out to him, man. He's really turning the corner, continuing to get better as a player. And I think just his short-term future for this team is really bright, even this season.
Yeah, real impressive game from him. Impressive season. He's been fantastic. I thought he did a really good job on Tatum. If they are in a playoff series and Tatum plays in the stagger minutes, that's, I think, something that I would definitely look for. What's interesting is, I didn't think he played well versus Jaylen Brown. I actually thought CB did a better job on
bully
on
ball.
Brown.
He's big. Yeah, Jaylen Brown, I'd never seen him in person. He kind of built like a receiver. Looked like he was coming off the line of scrimmage for the Chiefs right now.
Little bit. That's below bar, but yes. So I feel like he had some good matchups in there. Jaylen Brown had a phenomenal game. Jason Tatum had a bad one. 14. If you're Boston, you're looking at this game and you're being like, and this is what I've been dealing with Celtics fans all morning, is like, look, we shot 11 of 38 from 3. We missed 9 free throws, and we had a chance to take the lead on the Tatum 3 in the corner. And they're right. They're absolutely right. They're a really good team. And I do think that there were small things here and there. Everything that you kind of point to where it's like, well, we shot badly from 3. Well, the Nuggets shot worse. Well, Jason Tatum had a terrible game. Well, Jamal Murray didn't play great. And the fact that I will say the feel of that game for me pretty much after the first quarter was, I was like, Denver's in control of this. They just figured out a way to get this kind of handled, especially when, and look, it was tight, right? Where they took the lead late in the first quarter, and Jamal hits the one at the end of the quarter, and then Joker hits the bank shot to extend the lead at the half. They found all these little ways. Blackburn noted that they won the first 3 quarters, and so they found all these little moments in order to get the advantage on them.
Do you think there's something to the fact that in the first game the Nuggets had no idea what playing the Celtics was like in the first half? They just kind of were giving up a lot of threes. They just kind of moving all over the place. The defense wasn't good. And then in the second half, they really just kind of settled in. And then in this game, they felt like they were settled basically after the first 10 minutes of the first quarter. Do you think they're now getting to a place where they're getting used to the style of play that Boston has, even though it's going to take a little more?
Because they played it. When was the first game? Was it January?
January.
Yeah. So they play them once in January and they play them once in March. And if you talk to the players, what they will say is you have so many games and possessions in between. Yeah. You don't really remember it. Who they are, generally speaking. Right. But I will say, I think instead, though, they will get more and more comfortable playing these guys in a series if it comes down to that. And so much of it, I talked to Malone pregame. I didn't talk to him. I was in the scrum, in the press conference, and I asked him pregame his availability about okay, how does Boston do this? How do they generate all these threes? And he was literally like, they shoot a ton of pull-ups. You have to be really disciplined with your approach to them on ball because they just shoot great on pull-up threes. And they didn't fall tonight, and they didn't fall in the first game. And it's easy to be like, well, they didn't fall in the first game either. It's 2 games. We'll see what happens. And when Boston, if they play in a series and Boston wins game 1 or game 2, a big reason will be the 3-point differential. I will say this, as much as I credit Denver for being able to win when they don't hit threes, and Boston's now 3-6 3-7, I'm sorry, versus teams over 500 when they don't make 35% or better from 3. Yeah. As much as I say that, I do one of the reasons that this series will be hard for Denver's not going to win it comfortably. Versus Miami, there were games where they blew them out, where it was oh yeah, Denver's just way better, right? I don't know that's going to be like that versus Boston. And that's what's good about Denver is they can win big or they can win close, and they win close a lot more than they win big. And it's that execution level has to be so sharp. And again, I'll just kind of return to this. It's why it's so important to appreciate this concoction right here, this connection, this team, this combination right here. It is this coach with this superstar, with these players, with these role players in these exact roles. All of that together has to happen because your margin for error is tight. Like they're great in these clutch games when it's like, if you make a mistake, it's killer. And Boston made them over and over and over again. And that's one of their problems. And Denver doesn't. And that's one of the huge, I think, gaps between those teams.
Well, I can ask you on the other side of the segment. I have a question for you about this.
On the other side, we'll get to those kind of comments. Plus, I want to talk a little bit about, I want to, it's time to appreciate Michael Malone as far as who he is as a coach in the NBA. We'll talk about that on the other side on Locked On Nuggets. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which make it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring's easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. That's so many. And there's so many folks, like it's so much harder for small businesses to hire effectively because they don't have the resources of these big companies with layers and layers. But that makes it all the more important when you're a small company. You need to be able to get the right hire for your team. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making this part of your day. Matt Moore alongside Swipa for our final show of the week. We'll be back with you on Sunday with me and Adam Mares for World's Finest, and then rolling along throughout the week as the regular season starts to head into the final stretch of games. All right, so you have a question for me. Hit me, Swipe.
Yeah. So Jokic in the last 4 games, Matt, since last season, he is currently averaging 31, 11, and 9 on 64, 60, 96 splits versus Boston. And this year, he's averaging between the 2 games 33, 12, and 10. And he's averaging 60, 50, and 100 versus Boston on the season this year, Matt Moore. And again, that's the second best defense in the NBA behind the Minnesota Timberwolves coming into the Cleveland game, at least. Can I ask you this? Do you think at this point, kind of where we are with the MVP race and being March 8th, would you say that Jokic, if he hasn't wrapped up the MVP, that this is probably the strongest hold that anybody's had on the MVP so far this season, outside obviously the early season Embiid stuff?
I mean, it's not as strong as the Embiid stuff. Like, Embiid got hurt in January. Like, Embiid had this thing done by January 15th. It was over. There was no catching him. And that's a substantial part of the season. Like, I understand nobody wants to hear that here, but like, yeah, no, like Embiid had a firmer lock on it than Jokic does now. I'll continue to say this. He's having a marvelous stretch of games. I feel like I know he's going to pull back a little bit.
When would he have the chance to do that in the schedule?
Utah, starting on Saturday.
Yeah.
They're going to win close. They're going to win close in that game. They're going to win. They're going to win close. And everybody's going to be like, but they got the win. And now they've won 2 straight. Or 2, and like what, 7 of 9 or whatever, 7 of 8 or whatever. And then I just think they'll gear down. They got a stretch of road games coming up. They'll gear down. And I am of the opinion still that if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets the 1 seed, that will matter. I just think that will matter, and I do not expect.
I'm almost willing to bet you that Shai will not finish as the number 1. I think the highest he gets is number 2. I do not think the media, by and large, is going to award a first-year player with no playoff series and MVP this year. I know that's a playoff thing, but it hasn't happened. I actually can't remember the last time this happened, period. So I actually don't think I think because of a few things, and I mean because of Jokic and what he's doing is so loud, I actually think Shai's probably going to finish 2.
Okay. We'll see. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I will say that this stretch has cemented him very firmly because everyone's just like, yeah, Joker's the best in the world. Yeah,
right.
Like it's Joker. But
I think Giannis is the one that I'm actually curious about because he's the one that's kind of sweeping up the board. But he's been incredible, Matt. He's been really good.
I'm the Giannis guy around here. Like, yes, absolutely. You're the doubter of Giannis. He's incredible. He's amazing. He's absolutely phenomenal. But they have not had the season. They just have not. Part of this too is okay. Yeah, if we're gonna do the MVP thing, you got to think about there's like slices of this. If you ask the beat writers who's the most impressive player that you've seen this year, they're gonna say either Jokic or Shea. They're not gonna say Giannis. If you ask the narrative voters who are based off of what's the story of the season, no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, Giannis is the story of the season. No one. 0 people are gonna say Giannis is the story of the season, right? The advanced analytics, the hyper analyst, are they gonna say that Giannis has been the best? No, they're not. So like, there is no section where Giannis is going to carry enough votes. Giannis and Shea might split. That's entirely possible.
That's tough. But yeah, I was just curious about that because I think especially last night, obviously going 2-0 versus Boston at this point, a lot of key games coming up, 3 Timberwolves games, another Heat game, another Suns game coming up, and some other things. So it should be
the
fun.
The thing is, like, I just got to stress this. Recency bias is it's something I loathe. I hate it. But people say like it's a narrative award. It is less about narrative and it's more about recency bias, guys. Like, I'm just telling you, if you have to, here's how you win MVP. Get yourself into the conversation in January and then have the best late March. That's how you win MVP. Like, it is that simple. Because no one remembers what it was like, where we were in December. Like, people don't remember it. Like, they don't think about it. They can't, our brains can't process that stuff. So it gets to be a real issue. And like, this is why, to me, it's so important to look at the entire schedule. And I really try and do this. Whenever I do the MVP stuff, I try and do a thing where I go, who did I really believe was the MVP in December? Who did I really believe was the MVP in January? Like, who had the best, like, who dipped and who rose, who had great stretches and who didn't, who was great every single week, every single month. It's honestly, that's my best argument for Shea. Is like, there is no dip. He has been the same dude every single night. There are not like these nights where we're like, that was weird. Nikola didn't shoot at all. Nope. Like, Shea's the same dude every single night.
Except
and
he's not the Lakers, apparently.
Do what?
Except versus the Lakers, apparently, with all that length they have.
He had the back-to-back game. He had a back-to-back.
I know, I get it, but versus the Lakers just hadn't been great this year. I don't know why. I'm not.
Yeah, no, it's a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup for him.
The Austin Reeves POA defense, Matt, you need to change your stance on that.
Are you serious? You're out of your mind. Get him out of here. I want to talk about Malone. I had to be the guy for years being like, you guys are crazy that you want to fire Malone. He is the guy. He is phenomenal. Look at his record. Look at his performance. And this is one of the issues with when you have a great coach and you have an all-time player. The all-time player sucks the entire, like, all of the oxygen from the room. And we saw this last year where it was like, remember, I think they lost to the Pelicans. I think that's the game it was. It was either they lost the Pelicans or they beat the Pelicans the next game without Jokic. And everybody was like, this team is garbage without Nikola. This just shows why he's the MVP, because they're garbage without him. And I'm like, they have Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown and like all of these guys. Like, this is a good team. What are you talking about? And it's important to remember that Nikola can be the best player in the world, and you still have to have the coaching to optimize and put him in a position to succeed. And Malone, there is not a single box that Malone does not check.
I fully agree with you.
There is not a single one. He manages rotations. He empowers everyone says, well, he doesn't play young guys. Where you at? Where you at? Because Peyton Watson and Christian Brown are top 7 rotation for a championship team.
Mm-hmm.
He's able, they're better on defense this year. He's figured out the scheme problems of defending around Nikola, which is a challenge.
Got MPJ locked in.
Locked in.
Yeah.
Has the trust and confidence. And it was interesting. I asked Yoke about third quarter opens. They hit 2 pick and pops because Yoke is playing a little bit of a softer coverage.
Yeah.
And I'm always a little bit like, is that Yoke? Like, does Yoke get to make that call about how much he's playing up? And I asked Yoke about it, and he's like, no, I don't make any of those calls. It's entirely the coaching staff. So maybe it is.
They pre-rotate in the next several possessions.
Yes.
It cuts the water off. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, Malone's improved on it. I said this for years that Malone he gets better every single year because he is a self-reflective coach. He has, like all great coaches, he has a monster ego.
Mhm.
But the thing I will tell you is that Michael Malone has not made the same mistakes year over year. When it started out, he was playing too many guys. He fixed that. It was, his late game execution wasn't good. Fixed that. Timeout management was horrible because he was calling all these rage timeouts. Fix that. Like, he gets better every single year, and this has been his best one. He's not going to win Coach of the Year because they're the reigning champs with the best player in the world, and you don't get credit for it.
Crazy. Yeah,
but he's never going to win a Coach of the Year. They're going to go over every single year of his Denver Nuggets tenure, and he is never going to win Coach of the Year. And Michael Malone is legitimately, I would have him number 2 in the league behind Eric Spoelstra, who he outcoached in the finals.
Yeah. Well, and just to be clear, Matt, Coach of the Year or not, he wins another championship this year. He's going to be one of 7, 8 coaches that have won multiple championships, if I remember correctly. So he's locked for Hall of Fame. So to go from Sacramento cast out to being where he is now, and I remember we talked about this before the season last year. Remember, we talked about this idea if Malone doesn't reach at least the Western Conference Finals and fight competitive, that there was a chance that he could have been out. If he didn't take advantage of that team and Bruce Brown and KCP, and then I'm talking about obliterated the competition and outcoached every single coach on the way to a series. And now you got Peyton Watson and Christian Brown locked in, playing roles, and their bench minutes are winning yesterday. Reggie Jackson, who hasn't been playing well, he acknowledged hasn't been playing well. And guess what he did? Justin Holiday, who came on a veteran minimum, is closing, getting more minutes over Reggie Jackson in the second half. He's just adjusting all the time. He has gotten, and I think his best work though, Matt, probably still was Jokic, Murray, but it's Michael Porter. Getting Michael Porter to buy in to playing defense, rebounding the ball. Again, Porter's not perfect for sure. He has his own issues, but Porter become a good defender, like on a team defender. He rotates. He's one of the best help side wing protectors in the league so far this year. He just does a lot of things really right. Even he makes mistakes every so often. And he got him to the point where he's got Peyton Watson locked in everybody else, man. I just think, and the way he speaks about other coaches and teams, he speaks very highly of other people. He doesn't depreciate the game in any way, shape, or form. I think Malone, he is one of, I put him at 2 as well prior to coming into this season. I think he is a Hall of Fame coach. He is terrific with media. He answers questions very eloquently, gives you great responses across the board, man. Like, he's a soundbite machine with Celtics fans take the L on the way out. But when it comes to grinding, remember, they were up 30 at half to the Suns. They get up 27. Time out. Like, what are we doing? Like, and he's always locked in with them. He doesn't let them slip. And even yesterday, remember we talked about last year when they went 8-10, I think, down the stretch of the season. He was like, they just were bored. He's like, I tried. I didn't like it either.
I tried. He's like, I hated it.
I couldn't get them to do it, but I didn't think they could just turn it on. And then playoffs started. They turned it on. I think, but this team embodies Malone. They know what it means to fail. They know what it means to lose, and they're not scared of the moment. And that's exactly how Mike Malone is.
Yeah, phenomenal performance, phenomenal game by Boston. And this is really what it comes down to, is if this comes down to the finals, the Celtics are a great team. They are an all-time great regular season team. They're bringing Jason Tatum and Joe Mazzulla, and the Nuggets are bringing Michael Malone and Nikola Jokic. And I don't like reducing things to that. I really don't. It's not how I look at the game of basketball, but that matters a lot. That's going to do it for Locked On Nuggets for the week. Appreciate you guys being with us. We'll be back on Sunday. We'll talk about the Nuggets game versus the Jazz with Adam Mares on World's Finest. Get you set for Monday's game versus the Toronto Raptors before the Nuggets head back out on the road for a little bit. My thanks to Swipa for joining me today. Make sure to check out his YouTube page, SwipaCam on YouTube. And make sure to give us those 5-star reviews. Check us out at Locked On Nuggets on YouTube, youtube.com/Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys again next time.